Specialty coffee is just better. But why? Today I was out and about doing some business in Elida, a town not too far from here. And the guy said, "Hey, you're the coffee guy, right?" I said, "Yes, yes, sir, I am." And he said, um, "So what makes your coffee different?" And I said, "Well, for one, it's specialty coffee, and that's different than any coffee that you get on the shelves in the grocery store." And he says, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, coffees are graded by qualified quality graders. Quality Q graders is what they call them, um, and there's several different assessments that they do. Um, and I said they start with the raw beans and inspect all those, and then they move on to other assessments. I wanted to take a minute and show you what quality graders are actually looking for. They take a 12-ounce sample of raw coffee beans. They go through them bean by bean by bean, and here's what they're looking for: defects. The first one they're looking for is called blackening. Okay, you've got either full black or partial black, and if these are in there, one bean, one fully black bean is equals one defect. So that comes off the score of the coffee. Okay, three partially black beans is one defect. Okay, now what causes that? Agricultural is the primary reason. Blackening results from over-fermented pigment associated with microorganisms. Okay, but what's the effect on cup quality? How does it make the coffee taste any different? Well, it varies. You can get a ferment or like stinker taste, a dirty, moldy, sour, or phenolic taste. And nobody wants to drink that, do they? I don't think so. Okay, another one that we're looking for, that the Q graders are looking for, is sour beans. Okay, and they look like this. Okay, so a full sour bean is one defect. Partial sour, and you can see it's only half of the bean. Partial sour, three of those beans equal one defect. So what causes this? Sour beans are recognized by their yellowish or yellowish brown to reddish brown color. Usually the embryo inside the bean is dark or black. If the bean is cut or scratched, a sour or vinegar-like smell is released. Once roasted and ground, one single full sour bean can contaminate an entire pot of coffee. So what causes this? The sour bean is caused by fermentation that is the result of microbial contamination at multiple points during harvesting and processing. Specific causes include picking of overripe cherries, picking of fallen cherries, contamination of water during processing, or over fermentation in the fruit still attached to trees under humid conditions. Now, what happens here? How does this affect how the coffee tastes? Well, you get a fermented or even a stinker taste depending on the degree of bean fermentation. So nobody wants that either. They also looking for fungus damage. Okay, and it looks like this. Okay, one bean equals one defect. So what causes this? Fungus damaged beans, as they are commonly called, are recognized by yellow to reddish brown powdery spots or spores in early stages of the attack, which grow in size until covering the entire bean. The fungus damaged beans release spores that will contaminate the other beans. What causes this? Fungus damaged beans are most commonly caused by fungi from the Aspergillus and Penicillium and Fusarium genus, which can infect beans at any point from harvesting to storage, where temperature and humidity are at levels that will induce fungus growth. Fungi growth will only occur under these conditions if fungus spores are present. What effect does that have on your coffee? Well, it can produce a fermented, moldy, earthy, dirty, and phenolic taste, and nobody wants that. These are all standards that were developed by the Specialty Coffee Association, by the way. They've got a full manual. They're actually revising it now as we speak, but this is what they're looking for as far as bean defects go. They're also looking at insect damage. Okay. Now, severe insect damage, 5 beans equal 1 defect. Slight insect damage, 10 beans equal 1 defect. Broca beans is what they're called. are distinguished by small, dark holes, often on the opposite sides of the bean. The path can be at any angle, including longitudinally. Some beans may have extended damage, and 3 or more perforations are common. They are scored as 5 beans equal 1 defect for badly damaged beans, 3 or more perforations, or 10 beans equals 1 full defect for slightly damaged beans. The primary culprit here is the berry borer beetle. It's one of the most serious pests in coffee agriculture. The borer burrows into the cherry while still on the tree, tunneling into the soft seed inside, and he reproduces. The young often emerge from the other side, creating a bean with 2 holes in it. It is not uncommon for a single bean to have multiple sets of pathways. The incidence of broca tends to decline as altitude increases. What does this do to your coffee? Well, it impacts the appearance of roasted beans. It can result in dirty, sour, or moldy flavors, especially if present in high quantity. They're also looking at broken, chipped, or cut beans. Okay, and they look like that. 5 beans equal 1 defect. So if they find these in their sample, that's a mark on that's a deduction on the score of the coffee. Chipped or cut beans usually have a dark reddish color due to oxidation of the area where the cut or chip took place during the pulping. This can lead to fermentation, mold development, and bacterial activity, resulting in a wide variety of cup defects. Chipped and broken beans occur during the dry mill process. Therefore, fragments of the bean are usually clean with no signs of oxidation. It's caused really when broken, chipped, or cut beans usually occur during the pulping process or the dry milling process, where adjustment of the equipment is faulty and excess friction or pressure to the bean is applied. They're also looking for withered beans, and you can see how they look right there. Okay, a withered bean, five withered beans equals 1 defect. Okay, so withered beans are usually smaller and malformed with wrinkles, like you saw, that resemble those of a raisin. The withered bean is mainly caused by lack of water, drought, during development of the bean within the cherry. The damage depends on the intensity and duration of the drought. The proportion of damaged beans can be quite high if the plants are weak or in poor health. Also, they're looking for any foreign material that may be present, like rocks or sticks, anything else that shouldn't be there. Contamination from foreign matter can affect the green coffee, causing various off flavors. It really depends. They're also looking at immature beans. They look like this, not fully developed. Okay. And with those, five beans equal 1 defect. Immature or unripe beans are distinguished by the pallid yellow greenish color of the tegument or silver skin. That's the outer skin of the bean. The silver skin is tightly attached to the bean. They are often smaller, curved inward in a concave shape with sharp edges. What causes this? The immature unripe bean is not fully developed for several reasons, including improper picking of unripe cherries and uneven ripening on late ripening varieties growing at high altitude. They're also looking for floaters. Okay. With the floater beans appear distinctively white and faded, giving a green bean sample a mottled appearance. Floaters are low-density beans. If there's any doubt, place beans in water. They float. And in other videos, you've heard me talk about how during the processing, the floating beans are removed because there's not enough density there. They're either not fully ripe or they haven't developed enough to really be a good addition to the lot. 5 floater beans equals 1 defect. This defect is caused by improper storage or drying. Parchment beans left in the corners of the drying machines or patios usually result in a faded, low-density bean. Parchment coffee stored in excessively humid conditions can also result in floater beans. Also looking for parchment. Okay, parchment beans. 5 parchment beans equals 1 defect. Parchment beans are partially or fully enclosed in a thick, papery husk that is white or tan in color. This defect occurs in the dry mill due to improper calibration of the hulling machine. Speaking of holes, they're also looking for holes or husks. Okay, husks are a fragment of dried pulp that has a dark red color. Usually happens during processing. The holes or husks also appear in natural processed coffee that has not been properly cleaned. Poor calibration of depulping machines will result in fruit skin pieces that eventually dry into husk fragments. They're also looking for shells. Okay, shell beans are malformed and consist of an inner or outer part separately or together. One or both may be found, and in some instances, they will still be together. The outer section has a seashell shape. The inner section can be conical or cylindrical. This is a naturally occurring phenomenon caused by genetics. They're also, and this is the last one I'm going to go over with you, they're also looking for cherry pods. Now, if you watched the video I put out when we came back from Coffee Fest, I told you we met the El Salvadoran farmer, and she actually gave me, let's see if I can get this, she actually gave me some cherry pods. This is also part of the natural processing of coffees. Now, the machine normally takes the outer part off. But the dried pulp usually covers part or all of the parchment beans, sometimes with the presence of white spots or powdery residue, which is a sign of mold that affects the quality of the cup and the appearance of the coffee. In washed coffees, dried cherries or pods are the result of poor pulping process and failure to remove floaters, the dried fruits, from the initial water bath in the receiving station, either from a lack of maintenance or poor adjustment of the machinery. In natural processed coffees, dried cherries or pods are the result of improper hulling and sorting. Now, these beans I just showed you, these cherry pods I just showed you, they had not been through the hulling process yet. But what causes that? Drought and disease can cause fruit to dry on the tree, eventually dropping to the ground. That's just one of the assessments that quality graders put these beans through. These are all still raw. They're then roasted, and they go through other assessments, which we'll cover in later videos. But what can we conclude from this? Excuse me. We can conclude that commodity coffees that aren't specialty, will have a lot more of these defects that I just showed you present, and they'll be roasted like every other bean, and they'll be put in the coffee that you're drinking. All these defects that I talked to you about have an effect on the taste. You end up with just a plain old coffee taste, no flavor notes or anything like that. So that high standards, is the main reason that specialty coffees are better.